What's up, everyone? The market absolutely crushed it today as basically when it went on a rocket ship all day long. A bunch of key tech stocks like Meta, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and a bunch of other ones just ripped to the upside. We have a lot of just energy and action in the market right now. So in today's video, we're going to go over exactly what happened, some of the best plays for tomorrow, and some other important things you want to know about. And towards the end of the video, we have a $1 million trade. So make sure to stick with us. But Tom, what's going on in the market right now?
Yeah, it was insane. I will say this morning, Mike, the market started going pretty crazy. We had some GDP numbers come out, but I will say, Mike, I don't think anybody cares about these at all right now, especially with Amazon doing as well as they are right now in after hours. We saw 18% cloud revenue growth as their margins narrow, but nonetheless, they beat pretty much on everything, Mike. It was fantastic to see them beat on so many bullet points across the board, like revenue. Their EPS came in higher than a lot of the expectations that I saw as well. And I just saw so many good articles tonight about Amazon's earnings. There's a lot of great stuff with AWS as well, which is obviously one of the biggest parts of their business. So it's good to see that coming in higher than expectations also. But going back to the chart, it's amazing to see SPY flying up. Amazon's flying up now. We had those great earnings with Microsoft. Man, it's looking awesome right now, Mike. We are getting so many fantastic stocks flying up in the market, and it seems like the SPY is not slowing down anytime soon. Even though it's a little bit overextended on like a daily chart, for example, it just keeps going.
This type of like upwards explosiveness is giving me some 2020 vibes, Tom. Remember the good old days when every single day the market would just blast higher? You know, you could have bad news, you could have okay news, or you could have good news, and guess what would happen? The market would just blast higher, especially like the same key tech stocks that are moving right now.
Yeah, exactly. Going back to 2020 with Amazon, they had some insane explosions. And, going back to today, they actually ran up in after hours. They significantly broke above a key trend line here. If we look at that daily chart, that trend line break is fantastic. And to see them actually opening up tomorrow around 120 would be amazing. Some of these calls are going to explode, Mike. I saw you said earlier in the Discord, they were kind of expecting plus or minus about like an $8 move or so. But look at this. They actually flew up around $10 plus here in after hours. So if this holds up, some of these call options for tomorrow can be very, very explosive, just like we saw with Meta. There was a ton of people in Discord today who banked on Meta calls. Congrats to everybody out there on the call side. Obviously, the put players are going to be a little bit sad right now, Mike, but obviously the SPY's on a pretty good trend. It's nice to see. And with Amazon reporting all of these great numbers, and with all the big tech stocks that we've seen already report good numbers this week, it's hard to not say that we might go on a pretty good uptrend here for the summer. It's actually really good numbers to see. Like I said, the GDP came in a little bit slow today. That was obviously not a good sign early on, but all these earnings, whether it's banks or big tech stocks, are just blowing me away right now.
Well, that's the thing. It's like when you have big tech stocks move the way they are, it's like trying to stop a freight train, Like when you have Amazon blasting higher, Microsoft, Meta, and all these other ones moving like this, it's like there's some real power behind that. So assuming this momentum and this just trend keeps up, it'll of course put a lot of bullishness into the tech sector, but into the entire rest of the market too. So, as we stand right now, we have some stocks like Meta up a lot over like the past week. Meta's up basically 14% today alone. And a lot of people are now at the point where it's like, all right, am I too late to buy calls or bet on these stocks going up? Or are these stocks overextended and are they worth shorting, and like that's the key question being asked right now. And, Tom, if I decide to put you on the spot right here, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so like with a lot of these big tech stocks, it's like you said, it's to the point where you're like, I don't really want to be playing calls. So what I really like to do in this type of market is just trade the momentum on that specific day. So like today, for example, Meta had a really good day. It opened up obviously higher. So I'm not really going to look at this one too much, but going over to like Amazon, which did have a good intraday move, from open to close, it was very green. Even before the earnings came out, they had a pretty good run up. So I think that looking at momentum in this case, it could be a really good way to go over the next few days. So I think the calls are definitely good on an intraday case and maybe even a swing scenario if you're going to be swinging it in a short-term basis, maybe for like, maybe a couple days here and there if you see a good trend going on. But for the most part, when I look at a Meta daily chart, I am scared as hell right now that these stocks are going to fall right back down. And looking at Meta, it's about to reach this first gap that it had from that first big move down on that bad report back in February of 2022. So I'm very curious if we're going to start to fill this gap up or if we're going to start to consolidate a little bit. And I would say that my gut and my heart both tell me that we're probably going to start to consolidate sometime soon. But for the next few days, I think that this momentum can definitely continue up a little bit more, especially with these big earnings, because like we talk about, sometimes these earnings have big continuation moves, and we've definitely seen that this week out of Microsoft and a few of the other ones.
There we go. So I completely agree with you. Whether we're nitpicking Microsoft or Google or Meta, they all kind of move the same and they all have somewhat similar setups. So basically, if we go back to Meta, because I love to nitpick this one, Tom, as you know, and let's say we go to a daily chart, it's like over the past couple of months, it is literally up 175%. So it's like you'd have to have some balls of steel to swing trade this one and hold it for a couple weeks. But that does not mean there's not opportunity. You just have to treat it in a different way. So basically, for like the next couple of weeks, I'm definitely skeptical that Meta will be able to hold its current trend, you can say. But just like Tom said, over the next couple of days, there should be some great volatility. And even if it pulls back, that's fine too, because you can just jump on puts.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of ways to go with these. And I feel like that puts are going to start coming into play sometime soon, especially with those bad GDP numbers that we saw this morning. And talking about some of the stuff on the calendar, we have some pretty big stuff tomorrow as well with the PCE data coming out. We're going to get a lot of spending numbers and stuff like that. So it's going to be a pretty big deal, I'd say, in the morning. I don't think it's going to be anything like trend breaking necessarily, unless the numbers are really, really bad. But I will say this could throw a wrench into things if it does show some negative stuff with spending and personal income. So keep that in mind for tomorrow, that those are going to come into play, and even some more earnings. Exxon and Chevron are pretty big, and we even have Colgate tomorrow too.
Yeah, and then a stock that's not as popular as like these big tech stocks is Intel, and they actually had some pretty scary news come out with their report just a couple minutes ago.
I will say, Mike, this headline, when I first saw it, scared me to death. And then they were actually green for a minute. And I was like, oh, wow, it might actually be okay. But then they started dipping back down here in after hours. And I was like, you know what? The headline makes sense now. So looking at the headline, it says that they reported their largest quarterly loss in company history. I cannot believe that, Mike. That is a huge headline for a big company like Intel right now. And especially with all these other tech stocks doing well. I will say this guy's sad face here definitely paints a good picture, because it's definitely not looking good for Intel. I will say they're not down as much as I thought they could be with this news, but to see them sticking under $30 is definitely not a good sign. And that headline scared me to death, like I said.
You know it. All right, Tom. Well, with that being said, let's get right into some setups for tomorrow. A stock I'm watching pretty closely is Teladoc. TDOC. This stock had some news the other week, and they started to move up in a pretty good way, but they actually reported earnings yesterday in after hours, and they're holding up in a decent way. Basically, I'm looking for Teladoc to have some good momentum and like a solid break right above this like $28 level. If we see a break right above that zone, I can definitely see this stock continuing more to the upside, especially if some strong volume comes in.
Yeah, I could as well. That was like right at the top of that big wick right at open today. So I could definitely see that as well. Probably a pretty big area of resistance there. And I will say Teladoc is one of those stocks that we've been talking about for a long time. And it's been having some pretty good moves as of late. So I'll definitely be keeping it on the radar too. I know that, Palantir isn't a lot of people's favorite stocks in here, but it does have some popularity. And looking at it right now, I feel like it's starting to form a really good base down here around 770 to 780. So for tomorrow, if we can break above 790 and start to head up towards $8, I'll definitely be watching some calls on Palantir. This is a pretty good, setup in my opinion, with all the support play coming into action here. And then also with all these big tech stocks moving, I expect Palantir to probably start to follow suit a little bit. So keep your eyes on them. They're right around that big $8 resistance. If we break that, it could be a pretty good move.
Sounds good. Another stock I'm watching pretty closely is TLRY. So it had some good movement today. It was up around 10%, which is awesome. And basically there was some news where the Safe Banking Act was reintroduced into the House and Senate. And for those of you who don't know, Tilray is in the marijuana industry. And of course, there are a ton of regulations, federal regulations for this industry. And any sort of good or optimistic news related to better regulations or just, anything optimistic about the marijuana industry can definitely make this stock move in a big way. Like I said, it was up almost 10%. So I will be watching it to the upside tomorrow and over the next couple days. But the absolutely crucial thing with this stock is there has to be like news or some event and just like good volume flowing in for this setup to actually work.
Yeah, exactly. These marijuana stocks sometimes get some huge moves up with news like this. So, with that banking news coming out, that could be huge for them. Like you said, those regulations come into play a ton on these marijuana stocks, and Tilray is one of my favorites. And I did notice this morning that a lot of people were talking about this one in the Discord. So maybe it'll start to get some hype with it as well. I will say my second stock is Disney. This stock today, Mike, was just like a rocket ship. It just kept going up all throughout the day. Now, it wasn't up a ton because it's Disney, right? It doesn't have generally the biggest moves in the world, but it was up 3.44%, which I like. And it had a huge move when we closed just above 100. So if we keep holding up above $100 and we break above maybe $100.50 tomorrow, I will look at a big continuation play out of Disney. They've been having some big news lately with Ron DeSantis, and they're pretty big in the tech sector themselves, and they have earnings coming up over the next couple weeks too. So I think they could have a big continuation with tech. And man, Mike, it's so good to see these stocks continuing like this, especially Disney, because if we look at a daily chart, they've been low for so long. It's like, man, it's about time they started to go on a nice uptrend.
There we go. All right, Tom. Well, it is now time for the momentum plays. With the first one, we have Microsoft to the upside.
MSFT, huge move today, ran up to 305.50 right there in after hours. If we break above that in the morning, watch for more calls. That was a very explosive one today.
All right, with the next one, we have NIO, also to the upside.
Yeah, I noticed, NEO, Fisker, Lucid, all those EV stocks kept going. So watch NEO to break $8. They're just straddling that right in after hours there. So watch them to break above $8 even.
And with the last one, we have Tesla, and we need both directions.
Good old Tessie. I thought that was a great recovery today out of them as well. If they break above 161, watch for some calls. That's a pretty big area. We've seen a lot of, bounces there over the past couple weeks. If they do fall back under 159, that is going to be huge, Mike. That was a huge level from this week. I'm making some arrows to all those big bounces there. And if they fall back under that, watch for some moves, possibly back down to 157, then 156. So 159 to the downside and 161 to the upside there.
Perfect. So you guys heard Tom. We have that downside level. If it breaks below that, we're watching it for a day trade down. And if it breaks above the upside level, we're watching it for a day trade up. And then don't forget about NIO and Microsoft for potential day trades to the upside as well. Only if they break above those upside levels. But it is now time for the $1 million trade of the day. We are looking at none other than GLNG. You guys are probably like, what is this stock, right? So basically they're in the natural gas industry, and there was basically $1 million put into the 20 strike call options that expire on June 16th of 2023. Right now the stock is lingering right around $22.60. And this is a bet, essentially, that this stock will rise a lot in the future. The higher it goes, the more millions this trader will make. The stock is already up 10% today. It has amazing support right at 20. And there was actually some news today where they actually reached a deal with the in Nigeria, and they are essentially going to be doing a floating liquefied natural gas plant. So pretty interesting. The stock's moving with a good amount of momentum momentum, and hey, $1 million went into the calls.
Yeah, that is a lot, Mike. $1 million on a stock that was up 10% today. That is a huge move, and I cannot believe that they got into the 20 strike calls like this. That is a perfect support down there, and the expiration's not too far away either. So keep this one on the radar. I think whether you're trading options or shares or etc., this one might be fun over the next few days. And I will say this stock has went on some insane uptrends in the past. I'm not saying it's going to keep moving like it did today, but look at some of these moves in the past where it had, big 5% plus up days. So keep it on the radar. That's a lot of money coming in, Mike. And I think that's actually a pretty smart one to follow, especially given the strike price being down in the money like that.
There we go. Tom, we got to jump over to the Discord really quickly for today's Member of the Day. Huge shout out to Christian. You absolutely crushed it on meta call options. That is awesome to see. Tom and I are so pumped, and we were so pumped this morning when we saw it. So huge shout out to you. I know you just banked today. And if you guys want to join the chat, join the Stocked Up crew, check out that first link in the description in the comments down below. You'll get access to a bunch of great day trades from our bots, a bunch of other awesome short-term trading tools like the unusual options activity like we just talked about. So, with that $1 million trade that we just talked about, if you decide to join the Stocked Up crew, you'll get access to those same trades, but before the market closes, so you can get access to better entry prices. So definitely check it out. There's a bunch of great bots for day trading, a bunch of awesome tools like this big money data. And we have a lot of other things that we're not even covering now. So definitely check it out. It's absolutely awesome. You can cancel at any time, and we have some absolutely insane new updates coming very soon. So definitely join up. It's that first link in the description in the comments down below. But Tom, I'm hyped up. We're seeing some awesome movement in the market right now. Tons of opportunity, tons of energy. We haven't seen this type of movement in quite a while, and we still have some big earnings set for next week. So do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, like you said, big earnings for next week, even big earnings for tomorrow as some of these big oil stocks keep Exxon and Chevron on the radar. Screenshot this for tomorrow if you guys want to see a couple others. Colgate and Charter report tomorrow is too. Not really that big considering what we had this week, Mike. It's been quite the week for earnings. So I love to see them moving up. It's good to finally see the market picking a direction. If we go to the SPY on that daily chart, we started breaking out of that big trend line a while ago, and we kind of confirmed off of it down there back in the middle of March. I wonder if we'll hold this and we'll start to continue on this nice uptrend here. It kind of seems like with these earnings right now, that might be what's starting to happen.
All right, there we go. Well, we're very excited for the next couple trading days. We're going to see some awesome movement. And like I said, if you're into short-term trading and you want to join the Stocked Up crew, check out that first link in the description and the comments down below. And besides that, let's have an amazing end to the week.